I never imagined I would destroy everything I had built with my own two hands. Yet here I am, stripped of power, reputation, and ashes, my company's legacy nothing more than a footnote in the annals of corporate disasters. They say empires fall from outside attacks, but mine was gutted from within, by my pride, my arrogance, my refusal to listen when caution whispered in my ear. Some men lose battles on battlefields. I lost mine on the chessboard of corporate ambition, where hubris moved my pieces and arrogance blinded me to traps set by those I trusted. The downfall wasn't sudden. It was engineered by me, by my mistakes, by the intoxicating belief that I could never lose. When I founded Harrow & Stone Capital, it was nothing more than a fledgling advisory firm working out of a cramped downtown office. We had no clients, no reputation, nothing but restless hunger and a willingness to work until dawn broke over the skyline. Within 5 years, we had risen to the top ranks of boutique financial firms. Within 10, we were handling portfolios worth hundreds of millions. And by our 15th year, we stood tall with $3.2 billion under management, respected by competitors, feared by rivals, and adored by investors. I was the king of the board. Or so I thought. The first misstep came disguised as brilliance. A merger opportunity with Rydell Technologies, a flashy AI startup with valuations skyrocketing and journalists singing its praises. My advisors urged caution. The numbers didn't add up, the books were cloudy, and the CEO of Rydell, a man named Donovan Price, was known for his theatrics more than his substance. But I had already envisioned the headlines. Harrow & Stone enters tech frontier with $89 million stake. I ignored the pawns whispering in my ear, brushed aside the knights and bishops warning of dangers ahead. To me, they were simply slowing down the checkmate I believed inevitable. We signed the deal in a glass tower conference room overlooking the city. Cameras flashed. I shook Donovan's hand with the smile of a man convinced he had just secured his legacy. And for a brief moment, the illusion held. Stock prices soared, investors clapped me on the back, and my board hailed me as a visionary. But chess isn't won in a single move. It is a game of foresight, of patience, of anticipating what lies 3, 4, 10 moves ahead. And I had forgotten that. Within months, cracks began to show. Rydell's revolutionary technology faltered in trials. The patents were not as ironclad as promised. Revenue streams collapsed, lawsuits circled like vultures, and suddenly our firm, the once proud titan of cautious growth, was bleeding money faster than we could plug the wounds. Still, I refused to admit defeat. Hubris sat across from me at the table, moving pieces with my hand. Instead of retreating, I doubled down. I poured more capital into Rydell, convinced I could save it. I spun optimistic stories to my investors, assuring them that this was merely turbulence before the ascent. When my CFO begged me to stop, I accused him of lacking vision. When my risk analysts submitted reports showing catastrophic losses ahead, I shredded them with a smile and told them I trusted my gut more than their spreadsheets. In chess, sometimes the king is so obsessed with pressing forward that he fails to notice the queen has already been cornered. That was me. My queen was Amelia Rhodes, my second-in-command, the strategist who had been with me from the very beginning. She was the one who had kept our books clean, who had built the trust of our investors, who had steered us through storms with her steady hands. When I ignored her final plea to cut ties with Rydell, she resigned. Her departure sent shockwaves through the firm. Investors panicked. Staff morale crumbled. And still I told myself I was right. I was not. The end came faster than even my critics anticipated. A regulatory investigation revealed that Rydell had falsified data. Our $89 million investment wasn't just a loss. It was a sinkhole that pulled our reputation, our clients, and our entire future into its depths. By the time the truth reached the headlines, Harrow & Stone Capital was already dead. But here's the part most people don't know. It wasn't only hubris that killed us. It was betrayal. Donovan Price, the showman CEO, hadn't acted alone. Graham Keller, my own head of strategy, the man who had been smiling at my side for years, had been feeding Rydell inside information. He brokered the deal behind closed doors, secured himself quiet equity in the tech company, and pushed me toward the investment like a pawn nudging a king into check. When the collapse came, he vanished overseas with millions. I engineered the downfall, yes, but they helped design the blueprint. Now, When I sit alone in my empty study, I replay the game in my mind like a failed chess match. I see every piece and every mistake. The pawns were my analysts, sacrificed too quickly when they questioned me. The knights were my advisors, leaping in strange angles I dismiss as irrelevant. The bishops were Amelia and my CFO, their wisdom ignored until it was too late. The rooks, my investors, stood sturdy on the edges until, realizing the game was lost, they toppled and fled. And the queen, she left the board before the final blow. Without her, my king stood exposed, helpless, doomed. Checkmate came in the form of bankruptcy filings and newspaper headlines screaming of scandal. The empire I built crumbled overnight. I was no longer a king, but a fool who had mistaken hubris for strategy. Do I regret it? Of course. But regret does not rebuild fortunes or restore reputations. What remains now is a bitter clarity that arrogance blinds sharper than any enemy. Hubris convinces you that every move you make is brilliant, that every warning is cowardice, that you are invincible. Until suddenly you're not. My $89 million failure is a cautionary tale for those who believe they cannot lose. In business, as in chess, the game is not about the boldest move. It is about the smartest one. And sometimes the difference between victory and ruin is simply the humility to listen. I engineered my firm's downfall, not with malice, but with pride. I let hubris win. And in doing so, I learned the cruelest truth of all. Kings fall not when enemies strike them down, but when they strike themselves.